go ahead and get us kicked off. But Ella, just like my daughter literally just came down and said essentially the same thing, is that she's heard on like social media, they have all these like final optionals things, and all her teachers are like, it's on like Donkey Kong. Lily, go ahead, jump in.
Diana just wanted me to tell you that her connection went out.
Okay, thanks. I think a couple other people have been dropping in and out as well. So thank you, Lily. I appreciate that. We'll let her back in. Laura, yeah?
So I'm assuming you're not doing that. If you have an A, you don't have to take the final. Why was that even mentioned if it's not going to be a thing that anyone's going to follow? Was it just to like get our hopes up and then smash them on the ground?
Maybe they're doing that more in CP classes. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Harrison's intuition is right. I think a lot of the CP teachers may be taking advantage of this, and the AP honors teachers are still holding your feet to the fire. But again, I can't control anybody else's class, but Laura, again, I think you'll understand when you see what's going to be our final. In fact, it's already published on Canvas. You'll see it's pretty low stress, and you'll, at least in this instance, hopefully by that last finals day, you feel good. Okay, let's talk. We're going to talk about final exams actually in a few minutes. And you guys, I think we'll leave like pretty confident that you're going to do fine for the final exam in this course. But again, I'll be happy to answer any questions when we get to that part of the day. Okay, so last week, I asked you guys to break into teams and take a look at some guidance from IB on how to write a good essay. And I split you guys into 4 working teams. Each team was taking a look at somewhere around 3 pages of the guidance and putting together some points to talk with the class about, sort of a jigsaw activity. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the guidance that you guys created to share with each other. I don't know how involved your teams got in how you wanted to share that information. If you have Google Slides you want to be able to put up, or if you want to just talk to us about the guidance. So in a few minutes, we'll start with team 1, which was Lily, Laura, and Rivka. And then we'll go to team 2, which was AJ, Aiden, and Harrison. Team 3, Lamaya, Zoe, Ella, and Diana. And team 4, Oscar, Andre, and Suha. And just very briefly, in like 3, 4, 5 minutes, if you guys don't mind talking to us about what the highlights of your section were. Now, just to let you know, I've already put in Canvas in the module on the TOK essay. If you look right now, you should see all 4 pieces of guidance there. So I downloaded them and put them into Canvas in that module. So my reason for doing that is I don't want you to feel like you have to take a million notes today while you're listening to the other teams talk. Everything they're going to talk about is uploaded into Canvas for you to look at later. Does that make sense? So you can just actively listen, ask questions, provide examples, that kind of thing. You don't need to be worried about ferociously typing. Okay, so Lily, Laura, Rivka, team 1, did you guys have anything fancy for us, or do you want to just talk to us about what the guidance gave, what guidance was given?
We can probably just talk, I think.
Yeah, we wrote it on like a Google document. So unless you want to see that while we're talking, but we don't have like a presentation or anything, unless somebody knows something I don't.
That's okay. Do you guys see in Canvas where these documents are? Do you see in our module? Here, I'll share my screen real quick just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You see in our modules on the TOK essay, you see team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4. You guys, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, great. So do you want me to pull them up on my screen so we can all see it at the same time? I prefer being in gallery view if I'm being frank, so I can just see everybody while we're talking. But so can you just pull them up on your screen if you want to see them? Does that work? Okay. All right.
Okay.
So team 1, Laura, Lily, and Rivka, talk to us about your section. What were the important things?
Okay, I can start. So, we're talking about kind of like the setup of the paper. So starting with the introduction, obviously you're supposed to be telling the reader what's going to be discussed in the body, and there's 3 main things. You have to get the reader's attention, explain what you understand by the question, and briefly outline how you plan to tackle it. it suggested maybe having something like surprise, like a quote from a mathematician, but he wasn't talking about math or something. He said something that like you would totally not expect someone like him to say. So maybe like surprise the readers about with something like that. And then say why the question you chose is interesting and explain your key terms, and then have a strong thesis, and it has to be provable. Next, your paragraphs should have a cluster of arguments with evidence, or focused around a particular theme in each paragraph, and they're kind of like mini essays, and be organized. For the conclusion, you just want to like draw everything together and give closure to the readers, and mention unresolved issues and broader insights. And I gave a tip to have someone read the first and last sentence of each paragraph of your essay. So it should be enough to give the main points of your entire essay.
Laura and Lily, did you guys have anything to add, or did Rivka basically cover it all?
I mean, we wrote down different things if you want us to keep going. Or am I? Hello?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well, Lily's is next, unless she wants me to go next. I feel like she might be frozen.
Oh, no. I can hear you, but my Wi-Fi's been messing up a lot today, so if I freeze, sorry.
That's okay, just carry on. We'll do our best.
Okay, so my section was about style, which was mainly about like clarity, economy, and precision. So for clarity, the big takeaway I think was not to confuse clarity with superficiality and obscurity with depth. So a lot of people like to write down really complex things and make them seem complex to like make it look good, but it's better to just explain your like complex ideas with like clearly, I guess. And then the next one was economy. So basically that was just like be succinct, don't waste words, don't be repetitive, and everything you're saying should like further your argument. Other than the last one was precision. So that was like, don't qualify every single thing, and be aware of like minor differences between the meanings of words. So that was pretty much all in my section.
Okay, awesome, Lily. So if I can, I'm going to back up really quickly because of the way you guys organize this, which is totally fine. But before we get too far down the road, I want to just comment on a couple of things Rivka said. So first of all, introduction, providing some kind of attention getter really is helpful, and it's encouraged. So I was listening to like the University of Chicago's graduate writing like guru who helps like PhD candidates like write articles for journals. And he said, one of the best things to do early in your essay is to provide the reader with a problem. Okay. To provide the reader with some kind of problem that you're going to attempt to solve or give light to over the course of your essay. We love puzzles as humans. And so being introduced to a puzzle at the beginning of the essay is going to engage us, where it's almost like a murder mystery, right? Like where you see the murder at the beginning of the episode and you want to know who did it, right? So think of it that way. So for example, just as a quick example, I'm reading this book on migrant farmers for the anthropology class I'm going to teach next year. And the chapter I'm in right now is about doctors. And the chapter is titled, Doctors Don't Know Anything. Which is a pretty surprising, topic for, or a title for a chapter on doctors, because we think of doctors as highly educated and being those among us that know the most. But the point the author is making in this ethnography is that modern doctors have reduced our bodies to a set of pieces, right? Anatomical parts that they then want to diagnose, treat, and fix. And they've lost the sight of the human soul, the human as a whole person, the human who has experiences and perspectives on their body that should be taken into account. So these migrants, when they go to see doctors in these migrant camps, the doctors are just trying to churn them out very, very quickly. They don't ask them any questions, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, you like starting your essay, like say it's the one about statistics reveal as much as they conceal. Well, starting your essay with this idea that doctors don't know anything, right? And then talking about how there are different kinds of knowledge about the body, for example. There's you know, the very specific scientific knowledge of the body that an MRI or whatever can give you, or a blood test. But then there's also this other kind of knowledge about the body that comes from experience and perspective. It's just an example of where you can provide the reader of a problem to solve. Next, Rivka mentions organization, like little mini essays. That's also really helpful to think about. You'll see in a minute when the way I've organized your final exam, you're going to be doing an outline for your TOK essay is what you're going to be doing. And you'll see it's organized as 3 little discussions, right? Discussion 1, discussion 2, discussion 3. And you can think of each of those as a little mini essay. So that's great. Lily talked about being complex but clear. I can't echo that enough. Like, that's great that you guys included that. You do want your ideas to be rich and deep, but don't make your sentence construction super complicated for the sake of it being complicated and seeming like you're smart, right? Keep everything clear. Remember, they're going to have about 10 minutes to read and grade your essay, más o menos, right? So you do not want to make this, you know, difficult for them to understand your concepts and ideas. All right, Laura, the floor is yours. Sorry.
No problem. Okay, so I also have really bad Wi-Fi, so like tell me if you can't hear me. Okay, so my part was on factual accuracy and references. So the main point about factual accuracy was that there's a difference between a fact and an opinion. So don't put, quote, facts in your essay if they're just your own opinions or someone else's opinions. And then similarly to that, when you get your facts, make sure you thoroughly check with your sources that they are real facts and not just somebody's opinion that they've like published. And then in regard with references, it's kind of basic reference stuff like using sources. So your references should be surprising, or should like reference surprising, counterintuitive, or little known claims, like not well-known facts or opinions can be interesting, sort of like what Rivka talked about with like the quote at the beginning. So don't just do like always basic references. And then if you use another person's argument, even paraphrased, credit them, so basic stuff, and put the exact quotes in quotations if you're using an exact quote. Again, basic reference stuff. And then any accepted referencing system is allowed. So as long as you cite consistently and like show like the accuracy of your resources using citations, they don't care how you cite it as long as it's consistent. And then they did note very like specifically to, if you cite websites, include the date you access the site, which I thought was interesting that they like just mentioned that. So yeah, that was it. That was what mine was about basically.
Okay, great job, Laura. Well done, Team 1 overall. Let me just again echo this, that yes, citations are important. If you have any question, just cite it, right? It's just easier to do that and avoid any possibility of academic honesty. But let me also say this, it is entirely possible that you write this TOK essay and have 1 or 2 citations, right? This is not a research paper, right? This is largely about your beliefs and your thoughts and your arguments. So much of this should be original work that you're producing. So don't freak out if, you know, when you're getting into your essay, you're like, I only have like 2 sources or 1 citation, Mr. Hodson. That's totally normal, okay? I'd say the most citations I've ever seen on a TOK essay is like 4, right? So don't worry about, this isn't like the extended essay where you need, you know, a dozen or whatever sources. Well done. Team 2, AJ, Aiden, and Harrison. Do you guys have something fancy or you want to just talk to us?
We've got a Google Doc, which we could share while we talk, I guess. AJ, do you want to, or should I?
I mean, they can look at it. I think it's already up here, Harrison. Oh, wait, what? It says service is currently unavailable.
I'll share it. Oh, can I share my screen?
Mr. Hodson, is that just for me, or is that what everyone sees?
I don't know. Click on document 2, guys. Does it say currently?
Oh, wait, there's a document. I didn't realize that's what we're doing.
That's what I was talking about, but it's not showing up.
Okay, I'm just dumb.
No, you're fine. It's not showing up for some reason. I don't know why.
It shows up for me.
Oh, never mind then. Maybe it's just mine. Computer acting weird.
We'll make sure you get it, AJ.
Whatever, we'll just read it.
I already have it. It's just, oh, there it is. It just popped up on mine. Yeah, they can just look at that. I mean, if you want to share her.
Well, I guess we should probably say something. So the big main points, you should focus more on like the processes versus the final product. So the way of knowing, not just, you know, the actual knowledge. So when you're talking about something, you can't just say that it's a fact and like show evidence. You actually have to show why that evidence is applicable and what it means and what it indicates about the final idea. And then especially for contested concepts, which also goes into not defining things super strictly. So at the beginning of something, you shouldn't just set a definition and then forget about it. You need to explain why you're defining it that way, or define it in a more broad way, explain why there's different contested definitions, and what that means for, the knowledge. Especially with dictionary definitions. You can't use different dictionary definitions to define things that are like knowledge, that are just so broad that they can't be defined specifically with like a boring dictionary definition. AJ, if you want to say anything else?
Yeah. So kind of what he was saying, like, you want to go into contested like definitions, essentially, such that what he said, you don't have a straight like one definition you give and then kind of end the discussion there. So that's that point about using definitions to like introduce an idea. And another thing they made clear was when defining a word, you always need to deal with why it matters and what hangs on it. So essentially, like, you can use those two prongs, I would say, to kind of lead, like, if you need to or want to define a word. So yeah, kind of, again, not using dictionary definitions. And so here's an example here. Don't just say like knowledge is justified true belief, or justice is concerned with that which is fair. But like, you want to go into what are you trying to say about those definitions, essentially, is what he was trying to draw in. Aiden, you want to pick it up from there, or do you want me to keep going?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if I'm going the same way you were going, but another thing with definitions is that they should not be like the end goal of your paper. That like, you shouldn't be writing a paper to like define what love is. It should be more like a starting point. Like, you kind of defined it, then you gather examples, you test your concept, and like you kind of work from there. And this may be a little obvious, but like, be as original as possible. Try look at this from like your perspective in the world, not like that of famous philosophers. Like, their world is different from yours. Look at it through your lens. And yeah, there's more stuff, but it's kind of
and for the like being as original as possible, just don't recycle other people's ideas. So come up, like, try to read as little secondary source material as possible before coming up with your concept, because the less influence that other people's ideas have on yours, the better, because it discourages you from just repeating things, which in AP it's kind of all about, just proving other people's ideas. It's not really much about your own opinion. But with IB, you really need to explain stuff and have original ideas, because originality is important.
Yeah, wow. Well done, Team 2. I don't have much to add. That was really well said. I like the idea of the definition being the beginning of the conversation, not the end goal. And remember, yes, this essay is full of the pronoun I, or me, or my. So you are not detached from this essay, right? You're talking about your CAS experience. You're talking about your extended essay. You're talking about your physics experiment. You're talking about, your girls cross country team experience, whatever. So you're all up in this essay. Well done, Team 2. Team 3, Lamaya, Zoe, Ella, Diana. You guys have anything fancy to share, or you want to just walk us through it?
No, I think we're just going to walk you guys through it.
Love it. Go for it.
All right. So I was just talking about the argument. That's what I focused on. So my tips are to ensure that your arguments are actual arguments. They cannot be just loosely connected sentences. You have to have a claim, and reasons to support it are the main two features of an argument. So I have an example. So what would not be an argument is, astrology is the belief that the position of the stars at the time of your birth affects your destiny. There are 10 times more astrologers than astronomers in the United States. Despite its popularity, astrology cannot be classified as science. There's not a claim in that, and there are not reasons to support the claim. So if you wanted to make that an argument, you'd have to say something like, one of the hallmarks of a genuine science is that it makes a testable prediction. Admittedly, astrologers do make predictions, but they are so vague that they cannot be verified or falsified. So unlike astronomy, astrology cannot be classified as a science. That does have a claim and reasons to support it, so it'd be considered an argument. There's like a test called.
Can I interrupt real quick, Ella? Because I just want to clarify for everybody, you're great. That's an excellent example from the texts. Well done. I just want to clarify that that first set of arguments does have some claims, right? Like there are more astrologists than astrologers, but there aren't claims about knowledge, which is the important thing. So there aren't knowledge claims. Okay, awesome. You keep going.
And there's a test called the therefore test to see if a group of sentences is an argument. So if you have like a set of sentences, if you can put the word therefore in front of the statements and it makes sense, then it's considered to be an argument. And after writing your essay, you want to make sure that all of those like therefores, whether they're implicit, you want to make them explicit, like actually put the therefores in, which will make it easy to see where you are arguing and how many arguments you have. And also it noted that if you make vague assertions with no reasoning or a series of statements without a therefore, you will get no credit for those statements.
Yeah, awesome. Well done, Ella. And you don't literally have to use the whatever conjunction therefore. My grammar's not great, but is that a conjunction? Whatever. But yeah, think of it like syllogisms like we did last year. You know, if A is true and B is true, then C is true, right? So that's what she's talking about in the construction of arguments. Awesome. Who's up next?
I am. So kind of like building off of what Ella was saying about arguments, once you make your arguments, you have to then begin thinking about how you're going to provide reasoning for things that you're saying. And so one thing that the article talked about was being able to discern between what assertions you're making need to be supported with further evidence and what things you're saying can actually just be chalked up as common knowledge. You have to watch out for that. And so the article said that, kind of just a way for you to gauge when you're going to need supporting evidence. You're going to need supporting evidence if what you're saying is central to your argument or disputing or surprising in some manner. And so basically anywhere that someone could provide like a dispute or a refutation of the things you're saying is an area of your essay where you're going to need evidence. And so this evidence can come from research and personal claims, but when you're writing your essay, something you have to keep in mind about your evidence is thinking about the reliability of your sources. And so even when you're writing, you have to really think critically about what you're saying. Although the text mentioned avoiding kind of like the idiot skepticism that you can fall into as far as evidence and proving your claims and not getting stuck in that cycle of like infinite regress, because that can take away from the things that the nuanced ideas that you are presenting.
Yeah, great. So if you're at the very beginning of the our time together, we talked about empiricism and rationalism, and we mentioned skepticism, and we talked about how we weren't really going to engage in a lot of hyper-skeptical thought and theory of knowledge because although it has a place in philosophy, it's not super helpful for this course in determining what we do know. And so that's just that advice coming back here. You know, at the end of your essay, it is laudable for you to say, and here are some things that I've concluded I know, right? And not just like sort of wash your hands like knowledge is impossible of the world and we'll never know anything. Good job, Lamaya. Who's up next? Or did you guys cover it all?
No, this section was kind of long. So I had to do the counter argument section. So they specify, just a few main points, they specify that your essay should not be seen as like a monologue in which only one voice is going to be the one narrating. You should actually look at it as a dialogue in which multiple voices are like chiming in, I guess, and discussing or like working together to come to the conclusions and suggesting different alternatives. And you should be able to find at least one or at least two sides to any question. And if you can't think of a single one, then that means that your argument is too obviously true and thereby it doesn't even need you to defend it. So your essay is pointless. So you have to have at least two different sides to it. They point out that you need to avoid the straw man fallacy, which would be to construct and then demolish weak or illegitimate counterarguments simply for the sake of having one. So you shouldn't just make things up because there's like a need for a counterargument. It should be something of substance. Just because you have a counterargument doesn't mean that you're in the clear and that you're going to be fine, because it needs to be a valid counterargument, as I already mentioned. If you're going to plan on taking any position on the argument, you have to be sure that your argument can withstand even the strongest criticism, or else it's not going to be valid. And there are two main responses that you're going to be able to take to any counterargument once you have established a valid counterargument. The first one would be a refutation, which is essentially disproving the counterargument. You're going to reject it by showing that it is either mistaken, unlikely, or unimportant to your overall conclusion. And the other one would be the concession, in which you're going to admit that there is some truth to the counterargument, and you're going to qualify or change your original argument to account for this new counterargument.
Well done, Diana. That's amazing. That's awesome. Let me just add to this that in making your arguments and counter arguments, another really important thing to avoid are hypotheticals. So try to avoid at all costs your counter argument being, well, hypothetically, there could be a person that X, Y, or Z's, right? So if you're having to create a hypothetical, then it's probably not super realistic, right? So so try to avoid hypotheticals. Diana, well done. Zoe, I think you have a little to add as well.
Yeah, sorry if you can hear my dogs barking. They're angry right now. So I had the section on sound reasoning, which basically is like making sure that your argument makes sense and that you're not like actively undermining like what you're trying to say. And so it pointed out like three main like fallacies to make sure you avoid when you're writing your essay. And so the first one is like a hasty generalization. So like stereotyping, or like saying all Buddhists or like all Christians think this, because like that's usually not true. And if you do make any sort of generalization, it says you have to make sure you can cite where that claim came from. Otherwise, like you're not like accurate, like you're not valid in stating that. And then the second one was to avoid black or white thinking, which is extremes, and to make sure that you consider like all aspects of an idea. So we talked about black and white fallacies in class, just like don't say like, again, like don't say they're either this or they're this, or like it's that or this other thing. Like there's shades of gray, and you have to make sure that you address those in your essay. And then the third thing was just inconsistency. So like don't contradict yourself. Like if you say in paragraph 1, art is the most important area of knowledge, and then you say in paragraph 4, despite art's importance, ethics can be more important in this situation, then like you're actively contradicting what you said earlier, which you don't want to do.
Excellent, Zoe. Well done. Yeah, that last example I will see in essays from time to time. And again, I'll read all of your drafts of your TOK essay, and that's the kind of example that I'll try to look for and point out to you if I see it. So great job, Zoe. All right, this takes us to team 4. Oscar, Andre, and Suha. Do you guys have anything fancy, or you want to just walk us through it?
I think we're gonna go ahead and just walk you through it.
Love it. Take it, brother.
All right. So the first section in our part talked about the depth of the essay, and that's sort of like, you know, going into like what you're talking about and exploring all sorts of aspects and nuances within that. So like, for example, if you're going to have dialogue in your essay, make it more than just like a 2-line back and forth. You know, one person says this, other person says that. Try to have it go beyond that simple conversation. Another thing is, this might be sort of self-evident, but more supporting evidence strengthens the point you're making. You know, and that's something you have to think about at the same time while balancing something else that'll be talked about later, breadth of your essay. Distinguishing between different ideas and concepts can help add nuance to the argument. Like if you have, you know, this idea, it might sound similar to another, and making that distinction, you know, explaining the differences can help explain your argument better. And then sort of conclusions and implications can demonstrate your sort of in-depth thinking, you know, not just saying something, you know, this, and then this, and then this, you know, making something out of it, making some like, oh, this, and then therefore this, sort of going back to what was said earlier.
Great. Yes. Yeah. Just is somebody else going to talk about breadth? Okay. Awesome. I'll make my point then later. Go, Andre. Go for it.
So yeah, on breadth, so just how broad your writing is going to be. So you want to brainstorm different topics and how they connect to your essay, because obviously if you can tie in multiple areas of knowledge or just multiple topics, you can strengthen your argument from different points. So you don't want to keep the essays focused too strict or too narrow, because obviously this is like a thinking class. And like I said, if you can bring about different areas of knowledge and different topics, it'll strengthen your argument. But at the same time, they need to be relevant. So don't just talk about things because you can find some intricate connection. Think about things that will actually, strengthen your argument. And like Askar said, make something out of what you're saying. So the document suggested you pick 2 to 3 either areas of knowledge or just main ideas to compare your topic to, but not all of them. So the essay has to be inclusive, but you don't want to lose your focus completely by including too many.
Yeah, that's great. And so again, a lot of this advice seems, as Askar said, fairly self-evident, but I think you'll find in practicing, right, and actually writing this essay, striking that right balance between depth and breadth is crucial, and it's going to take some time to figure out. And that's why I think so many titles these days over the last 4 or 5 years have said within 2 areas of knowledge. I think IB realized that by giving students that constraint of telling them to focus on 2 areas of knowledge, that hit that sweet spot or helped guide them to that sweet spot of being able to get the breadth, but still have the depth, because students weren't trying to tackle 4 or 5 areas of knowledge. They were forced to just restrict that to 2. Fantastic. Suha, did you have anything to add, or does that about wrap it up?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I guess I'm not muted anymore. Or I don't know. My mic wasn't working. Okay, so I mean, and then we just talked, there's like also just talked about examples, and how like, when you give different, like what kind of like examples to use, and like, I mean, you guys already talked about this, but like not using hypotheticals, using like real world examples, not using like cliches, or things like that, but rather like different unique examples, and varying your examples, so there's not just like only numbers or statistics, but it's like yeah, but make sure that they're just different and not all the same thing. And as well as just, I mean, these are kind of things that we kind of already know, like making sure we use different sources for different perspectives, making sure our examples are short and concise, and yeah, so I mean, it's just things we've already usually know.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Team 4. Well done. Okay. Oh, was that? Did I miss somebody?
There's one last small section on quotations.
Oh yeah, please.
Oh, okay. So the first point is like don't just paste quotations in your paper without having your own voice in there too. Like, of course you want to get different perspectives and you want to hear what other people have to say, but it's still your essay. You want to have your own voice either talking about or talking to the quotations that you have, and make sure their quotations are relevant. Don't just have this quotation for the sake of having it. And then, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Again, it's not uncommon for you to have very few quotations in your essay, and this again largely to be your original thoughts and ideas. So, well done, 4 teams. Thank you, guys. This all that advice and guidance is in this module, and so it's all there for you. Okay, I am going to share my screen really quickly right now, trying to be mindful of everybody's time. I'm going to just do a very quick, super quick walkthrough through the final exam. But again, I'll stay on here and answer as many questions as you guys have about it. If you feel like there's something unclear and you want to make sure you understand what's going on. So first of all, you'll see, let me publish it. I published this assignment, but I hadn't published the module. There, I published the module now. So now you should be able to find it in Canvas if you want. Notice that it's going to be due on the Thursday of next Thursday, our final exam day at 1:45 in the afternoon, which is the end of that final exam period for you. My reason for doing that is that I have to have it graded by the next morning, so I can report any failures. Well, that's not going to happen, but I do have to have it wrapped up on Friday morning, so that's why I've set the due date for there. You can turn it in earlier though. Again, I know you're very busy, but just so you know, you don't have to actually do it during our final exam time on next Thursday. Okay, you'll notice you're just going to create a very quick outline for your essay on a prescribed title. Can you change this outline later? Of course, yes. This is a work in progress for you. So you're going to be just basically putting together an outline of how you're thinking about addressing your title. I've tried to break it down very simply and easily for you so that you could very quickly do this, without a lot of undue stress here. You know, first thing you're going to do is put your title at the top, so I know which title you're doing. You're going to list the 3 knowledge questions that you're thinking about tackling. You're going to have a knowledge claim, a counterclaim, a link, and implications for those, any WOKs or AOKs that you're thinking about working on, and some troublesome vocabulary that you might need to define. So I recommend your outline looks just like this. Of course, you can use Roman numerals or numbers if you don't like bullet points, but you get the gist here. I'm going to grade these very quickly, and this is to a large extent a completion grade, right? Because I mean, it's an outline, right? Like this isn't your actual essay. So you'll see in a second, I have a little guidance about how to make sure you do well on the outline in terms of content. We'll get to that in a second. But as easy as you can make this for me to grade, I greatly appreciate it. So like just clearly labeling, you know, discussion 1, knowledge claim, counterclaim, you know, whatever. That will really help me be able to look at your essay quickly, or sorry, not your essay, but your outline quickly. Okay, here are some important notes. Clarity is important, all right? I only have a limited time to assess your outline, so clear labeling is very helpful. If you can just literally, you know, label implications as implications, or, you know, personal experience as personal experience, that'd be great. Justify where necessary. You do not need to write your essay in the outline, right? So again, you can keep this pretty simple, but please avoid things like, I'm going to include an example from work, right? Or I'll talk about what happened in physics class. That's not super helpful for me to understand what you're going to be talking about. So instead, if you could put reference to physics experiment, right, where my results were different than the book said they were supposed to be, or something like that, then I just have a little context to understand what you're going to be talking about there. Okay, so that's what I would like you guys to do for your final exam. So longer isn't necessarily better. Just be, you know, relatively clear with your thoughts. You can see the rubric right here. Again, it's largely going to be sort of completion. I'm just looking to see that you have these things included. But as you take a look at the rubric over the coming hours or days, if you want to talk to me via Remind or send me an email or talk over the rubric, I'm happy to do that, okay? All right, so students do very well on this. This is not a, you know, harshly graded final exam here by any stretch of the imagination, but it does give you a very useful way to get started for second semester, and allows me to see if you picked up on what we've been talking about over the last month and a half, 2 months about your TOK essay. So that's the justification for it. Questions, I'll stop my share, and anybody who has questions for the good of the order, please feel free. All right, well, I will stick around here for a few minutes. If anybody has a question they want to ask me personally, please feel free. Otherwise, have a fantastic rest of the week. Good luck closing out those extended essays. I can't wait to read the ones I'm responsible for assessing. Take care, y'all.
Hey, Mr. Hodgson.
Andre.
Could we meet sometime this week to discuss my essay? Because I'm gonna meet with Sander, but we're gonna be going over like the readability aspect, you know, the like technical writing side. But I want to go over the concepts and stuff with you just to make sure I have everything I need.
Great. I'm guessing sooner would be better rather than later.
Yeah, mine is like it's finished, but it's not like edited and, you know, changed. But like the actual essay is finished.
So but does tomorrow, either before school, after school, or during that 10:30 to 11 period work for you?
Yeah, let's do that. Can we do that 10:30 to 11? Because I think I'm meeting after school with Sander.
Sure.
Tomorrow. So.
Do you want to, have you shared with me your draft or your essay so far, or do you want?
Oh, not yet. I'll share it like right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll take a look at it ahead of time, so that way we don't have to waste a lot of time with me scanning through your document.
Okay.
Sounds good. Oh, sorry, Andre. I've started writing my essay and I have like a fair amount done, but like I don't know, I'm like feeling really nervous about it. So I was wondering if you could just like read through what I have and like see if I'm like kind of on the right track. I don't know. Miss Sisson and I aren't really getting along, so I'm concerned about the essay.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. So yeah, absolutely is the short answer. Yes.
Okay, cool. I'll share it with you. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, and we can meet to talk about it sometime this week too.
Okay, cool. Right now, I have Wednesday before school, after school, or that 10:30 to 11 period open. Or I have tomorrow after school as well that's open. Oh, you're muted.
Zoe, you're muted.
Oh my gosh. Can I do it during the Wednesday 10:30 to 11?
Gotcha. You're in.
Thank you. Bye.
Welcome. See ya. All right, AJ, what's up, brother?
Yeah, just my quick thing is like, so I know you're obviously not my mentor, but because I'm writing a little more like complex essay, I just want to like kind of do the same thing that Zoe was asking about. If you could just like look through and make sure like I'm obviously like on the right track, because I know I need to do more than like just like what my one topic is, because it's interdis.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like in the process right now. I think I'm gonna talk to Mr. Grob about it tomorrow. So maybe like what Wednesday or Thursday too would be good. I'll send you the rough draft when I have that done too.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to meet to talk about it, or do you want me to just?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to hypothetically think about, you know, do you want to do like Wednesday after school, or do you want to do like Thursday during that 10:30 to 11? Actually, sorry, this Thursday I'm booked from 10:30 to 11. I forgot.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, no worries. I'm trying to think. I could honestly just pop up before school for a little bit if you could do that. Maybe like Wednesday.
Yep, sounds good. Oh, sorry, Wednesday. I got a social studies department meeting on Wednesday morning.
No worries. Then Thursday.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I'll probably have most of it good by then too. So, and I'll send you the rough draft. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we need to meet actually. I mean, I feel like if you look at the rough draft and like if you have any big problems, then maybe we can meet. But if you think I'm like on the right track, then I don't know. I think I'd be good then, honestly.
Okay, I'll send you some written feedback first.
Okay.
And if you feel like you want clarification via conversation, we'll take that.
Okay. I'll reach out to you. Yeah, I can text you then if we need to set up a meeting or anything.
Sounds good, AJ.
Perfect. Thanks, Mr. Hodgson.
Yeah, take care, my friend.